What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Comically Boston breakdown episode. And today we are talking about Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 5, titled Back to the Suture, which is what, a play on Back to the Future? Suture would be what, like a stitch? A suture? I don't know. Comment below if you know what a suture is. But previously, in the last week of Peacemaker, we saw a flashback to Agee and the boys hunting in the woods, and Agee had killed an alien, and they stole the QUC tech, showing us how it came into their possession. Not necessarily where it came from, but at least how they got it. We also saw Red St. Wild got pushed over by ECONOMOS, and now his third eye is opened, and we saw him do some type of magical ritual, and it looked like he was in this ball of purplish bluish fire and possibly making him a metahuman, showing off his powers. But he was able to locate EAGLY at the cabin in the woods, and Peacemaker is heading to meet HARCOURT, where Flag, SHASHA, BORDEAUX, and the rest of the Argus team is waiting for him. But we open this episode on another flashback, and I think James Gunn said every episode this season opens on a flashback. But this week we open on a flashback to 3 years ago, right after the events of The Suicide Squad and right before the events of Peacemaker Season 1. And EMILIA Harcourt is at Rick Flag Jr.'s funeral. And Rick Sr. sits down behind her and starts like rubbing her shoulder, and he's trying to comfort Harcourt, you know, saying that Ricky really loved her, and she's like, your son loved a lot of women, and he's like, yes, he did, but he also loved you as a friend, and that means something. But he also tries to get information out of Harcourt and ask her, you know, who is Ricky's killer? They're not giving me the information. She's like, I can't tell you, and he's like, I know, but I thought you might have told me if I asked. And Flag mentions that Harcourt's on Waller's bad side, and she says that Waller is sticking her in this shitty op called Project Butterfly, which we know from Season 1 what Project Butterfly means, and why Project Starfish was the Starro and Project Butterfly was the Butterflies. And no mission this season. I want, you know, like Season 1, it was like they were on these missions and they were like, you know, going places together as a team. Season 2 has been much more about like Peacemaker the person, his family, his other universes, you know, like that type of thing, his relationship with the different characters. But we haven't really seen our Peacemaker suit up in his Peacemaker suit and go and do missions like the first season. So very interesting that this season we haven't necessarily seen that. And, you know, just a couple of times we've seen him suit up in the Peacemaker suit, and one of the times was his other universe's self, and just now in this episode he suits up as the other universe's Peacemaker, but, you know, himself, because obviously that version he killed back in the first episode. So it's like, what a crazy season so far, and we still have 3 more episodes to go. Like, this episode almost feels like a season finale in a way. And we see Harcourt promises Rick Flag that she'll make whoever did this pay. So, you know, Chris had really won her over as a friend through Season 1 of Peacemaker, but there's still this lingering promise that she made Rick Sr. to kill whoever did this to Rick. And now Flag knows that it's Peacemaker, so maybe he's going to be upset that she didn't make good on her promise. But we cut over to the intro song, which is amazing and you really should never skip. And then we come to the Chapter 5 Back to the Suture title card, written by James Gunn, directed by Althea Jones. And we come back to our universe, and Harcourt is waiting for Peacemaker on a park bench, and we see that there's some kids playing soccer, and there's a lot of people around, and she's wearing a wire, and Argus is there, and they all have different colors for code names. And we see Judo Master has a sniper rifle up on the roof and has Peacemaker in his sights. But Chris arrives and he is doing anything possible to find cover. He's petting dogs, he's hiding behind bicyclists, he's hugging strangers, he's playing soccer with the kids, like he knows something's about to go down. And he makes it all the way over to Harcourt, and he immediately grabs the wire on her and throws it. And they're like, yo, he threw her bug, what happened there? You know, like, how's he know? And Peacemaker knew something was going down because Harcourt used copacetic in their text message, and that's the code word meaning something's wrong. And she's like, "You idiot, why are you here?" And Peacemaker goes, "I know that that was the code word, but I came anyways because I have to know something." And Harcourt's like, "Get the fuck out of here, Chris." And Peacemaker asks Harcourt, "Did what happened on the boat mean anything to you at all in any way? That's all I came here to ask." And she avoids the question, and she gets all angry, and she's like, "I can't even trust you to stay away when I warn you. Your ego is so big, you somehow think that you can get out of this, but you can't. You can't. You are so fucked." And Chris is like, "Why won't you answer the question?" And he goes to start asking the question again, and she snaps and, you know, cuts him off and goes, "No, no, I told you I was drunk, and I told you I wish it never happened." And he's like, "I understand it." He goes to get up and he's like, "Is it because of Rick Flag Jr. and because you guys had something between the two of you?" And Harcourt's like, "He was my only friend and you killed him, Chris. How could I possibly..." And like, she doesn't even finish the sentence just because like she's, you know, having so many emotions, but she's like, "How could I possibly feel for you when you killed my only friend who I actually loved?" And, you know, whatever. Very complicated, you know, relationship between the three of them, but I still think Harcourt really does like him deep down. She just won't let those feelings out, you know what I mean? But as she, like, you know, says, "How could I possibly," she gets cut off when Ivory, or Fleury, comes in with a gun pointed at Peacemaker, and he immediately takes off, makes a run for it, when Cupidol decides to step in front of him, telling him to stop, and Chris punches his hand and breaks poor Cupidol's hand. I was like, ooh, and like kind of, you know, fighting with him. When Judo Master on the roof takes a shot, but we see that his sniper rifle is loaded with tranquilizer darts, and he accidentally shoots Cupidol in the neck, and Cupidol's now like passed out. So Peacemaker, you know, steals his gun, throws Cupidol up on his shoulders like he's about to deliver the attitude adjustment to poor Cupidol. If you know, you know. Fleury's looking at him with Cupidol up on his shoulders, and he's like, "Put down that adorable little fucker." He's like, "Man, I like doing this shit. Fuck you." And he calls Fleury Shaft, and Fleury takes this as a compliment. Who's Shaft? Samuel L. Jackson? Tim Meadows? Yeah, I guess Samuel L. Jackson's a good-looking black guy compared to Tim Meadows, so yeah, I guess you do take that as a compliment. I haven't seen the Shaft movies. I've heard they're very funny and very good, and I do love Samuel L. Jackson, so comment below, should I do a rewatch of Shaft? We then hear Flag say to Judo Master, "Stand down." Another tranquilizer shot to Cupidol could kill him, so 2 of those tranquilizer darts just means night-night, forever. And then we see Sasha Bordeaux walk up, and she says she has a clean shot, but it could be fatal. And we see that she has some type of enhancement tech in her right eye. What's that about? We'll learn more about what she is in a little bit. And Flag tells her to take the shot, but Harcourt hears this and rushes in and takes down Peacemaker herself and chokes him unconscious, so they're not able to kill him. And now Peacemaker's in Argus's hands. But I love, like, they're in the park and then like the whole Argus gang's there, and all of a sudden, like, Tim Meadows is standing there like, "Yeah, Ivory here," and a beautiful black woman walks by, and him and Mexicali both check her out like, "God damn!" And it's like, where is James Gunn finding these gorgeous extras? Was he just like to his casting department, "Hey, anybody that's an extra, anybody in that orgy scene, I just want the baddest, dopest people alive. Can you do that?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got you." Like, damn. Gorgeous black woman. I love to see that. I was like, whew. We then cut over to ADEBYO and Vigilante at the cabin in the woods, and ADEBYO has this whole conversation on the phone thinking she's taking, you know, a phone call for her security ad that she put in that magazine. But Adrian is like, "That totally sounded like a prostitute phone call." And the guy that was on the phone with ADEBYO asked if she did Greek, and Vigilante's like, "I have no idea what that means when it comes to security. But when it comes to prostitution, it means butt stuff." And she's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Don't worry about me. I never kill prostitutes. Except John's." So, wait, what? So Vigilante kills ECONOMOS' prostitutes? ECONOMOS has prostitutes? And fucking just is like, "Hey, Vigilante, can you take care of this for me? Bah, bah. Hey, just took out that bitch for you. Don't worry about it." You know, like, God damn. But it was just funny that he's like, "Don't worry, I never kill prostitutes. Their lives are so sad already." And it's like, oh God, Vigilante. And then, you know, and he's looking at ADEBYO like she's a prostitute. She's like, I'm not a prostitute. And he's like, yeah, right. I just heard you take a prostitute phone call. Come on, you're definitely a prostitute. And they go back into the cabin, but we see Red St. Wild is outside of the cabin in the woods and like looking around like, where are you, bird? Where'd you go? And he's looking for EAGLY. Oh boy, watch out, EAGLY. We cut back over to Argus, and Sasha Bordeaux is pissed at Harcourt.
Point was to find the dimensional rift. You thought we were gonna do that with Peacemaker dead?
So you disobey a direct order?
What order?
Staying down while I take my shot.
Nobody told me to stand down, bitch, and you better back the fuck off.
I better?
You got complaints? Take them to HR. I made a judgment call.
And Harcourt is like, nobody told me to stand down, bitch, and you better back the fuck off. You got a complaint? Take them to HR. And I was like, oh, Jennifer Holland, I have never thought Harcourt was more gorgeous than this moment of her telling Sasha Bordeaux to go fuck herself. I was like, oh, I was running around my room like, oh, Harcourt, you legend. Like, absolutely, rip her a new one. I love, you know, if you've heard the breakdowns, I love me some Sasha Bordeaux. Maybe not this episode, but Sol Rodriguez still looking fine as hell throughout any of the scenes she's in. Oh my goodness, Sol Rodriguez, I love you. But as this like fight went down and she's like, take it to HR, Sasha looks like she's about to go complain to HR, but we see them bringing in Peacemaker for questioning in handcuffs, and Chris walks by ECONOMOS. He's like, what's up, John? And ECONOMOS is like, I don't know him, he's acting way too familiar. And he like tries to put his head down and start going back to work when Harcourt's like, you know, like trying to get his attention, and he kind of just shakes his head like, no, that's a bad idea, we shouldn't do that. And she like coughs louder like, asshole, you know, like, now, asshole, please. And ECONOMOS like spikes his pencil like, fine, and he like gets up to go talk to her. Harcourt then fills in ECONOMOS on what happened, and ECONOMOS informs her on what the deal is with Sasha, and we learn that Sasha is a cyborg, in that she was in a plane crash and like got all crushed up, and Argus replaced half her body with machinery. Very interesting. So she's a cyborg? What? Okay, I'm here for that. Apparently that's her comics, but like up until this point I had heard nothing about Sasha Bordeaux being a cyborg. So as soon as I saw her little eye thing, I didn't put two and two together, but I was like, what the hell's that? Cyborg? Cool as hell. Just made this character just that much better, you know? Has an interesting backstory that I now want to see more and hear more about. And it's funny, in the same scene, ECONOMOS is like, yeah, I hate her so much. I used a picture of like her body all messed up as my screensaver for a while. And Harcourt's like, that's fucked up. He's like, I'm sorry, I didn't make my brain. You know, like, it is pretty fucked up. But like, God, you hate somebody, you make them your screensaver just of them fucked up. Like, oof. And Harcourt tells ECONOMOS that Flag would never say it, but all of this surveillance, taking in Peacemaker, everything has been because of what he did to Rick Flag Jr. And John says he knows. And Harcourt asks him to book Peacemaker in so that he doesn't disappear, as she thinks Flag's genuinely going to kill him. And he says, no, I can't. They'll know it was me. And I'm famously a pussy. Just looking somebody in the eyes is an act of heroism for me. But fine. So John's gonna go book in Peacemaker so Flag doesn't end up killing him. We then cut back to the woods to see Red St. Wild poisons a little decoy rat and throws it over in front of the cabin as a trap for EAGLY. Oh boy, watch out, EAGLY. But we cut it back over to Flag in the interrogation room with Peacemaker, telling Sasha and Fleury to beat it and turn off the recording equipment and shut that shade and take a walk, because he's about to have some alone time with Peacemaker. And Flag starts beating his ass and he's saying, fight me, motherfucker. But Chris won't fight back, and he's trying to tell him that, like, he regrets killing his son, but he just keeps wailing on him, and Chris is getting all bloody and he like knees his head into a wall. Like, some violent action between them. Flag beating up Peacemaker and Peacemaker just kind of taking it. Like, he didn't necessarily fight back, throw any punches back, but poor Peacemaker taking a beating nonetheless. But we see ECONOMOS books Chris into the system, and Sasha immediately sees that he did, and she's pissed, like, now we have eyes on us, asshole. And ECONOMOS is like, whoa, forgive me for trying to take busy work off of everybody's plates, and you mean thank you, John, for doing what we're required to do by law. You know, just another thing of ECONOMOS, you know, furthering his character and getting more comfortable, because first season he was a little bit more shy and a little bit more timid and much more of a pussy, and he had that dye beard, so he wasn't confident. Now he has a little bit better product, he has better dyeing product, so the beard is still dyed, but it looks much better. And ECONOMOS is much more cool, he has friends, you know, like, he's not taking everybody's shit at so much this season, you know, like, I really like the growth for ECONOMOS this season. And I heard somebody the other day saying, like, Vigilante has no growth as a character, and he's so bad, like, the writing for him is bad this season. And I don't agree. I think James Gunn intentionally made growth for each one of the characters, except for Vigilante, and he's just the stunted, dumb motherfucker that he is. You know, like, and he's just gonna stay right where he's at. Unless one day he does have some crazy arc for Vigilante, and he does grow as a person, but at least for now, we want Vigilante to be Vigilante and just be the dumb, lovable idiot that thinks he's Peacemaker's best friend, even though ADEBYO is. Like, but Peacemaker is Vigilante's best friend, but Vigilante isn't Peacemaker's best friend. You know what I mean? You ever have those friends where it's like, you're my best friend, and then that guy goes, uh-huh. Doesn't say it back. He's like, yeah, no, my best friend's over there, but I'm good friends with you, but my best friend's over there. It's just like, if you're not your best friend's best friend, reevaluate that friendship. That's what I'm saying. But as this all goes down, Fleury is standing there and goes, it's good that you did that. So even Fleury doesn't like that Flag is beating up on him, and Fleury wants to be a part of something good, you know? We then cut back to the woods, and EAGLY almost eats the poison rat, but Adrian comes out and, like, he drops it, and Adrian and ADEBYO are leaving, but he tells him that they're going to get back his dad, so they're going to get Peacemaker, and a fox comes over and steals the poison rat from EAGLY and, you know, eats it and dies right in front of EAGLY, and EAGLY sees it, like, what the hell just happened here? I almost ate that rat. But we then see Red St. Wild pulling out an absolutely massive gun. It would be called a musket if it's not a freaking cannon. You know what I mean? Like, it's so big. It's like the most comical gun you've ever seen. It's just so large. But we have this great shot where he's holding this thing, and like the tip of the gun is right up into camera. The camera has to be 4 to 5 feet away from where he's standing, and the gun is like an inch away from the lens, you know what I mean? And the gun itself has to be like a good, you know, at least handful or two around, you know, like as he's holding it, he can't fit his whole hand around that gun, so it's like, it's got this like big gun to it, like it's the biggest friggin' gun I've ever seen in my life. I want to shoot it. But we cut back to see that because ECONOMOS booked Chris, they can't risk having him put in a local jail all bloody like he is, so they just let him go. So ADEBYO and Adrian are there to pick him up, but Judo Master follows them. Sacha Bordeaux then comes into Flag's office, and he's like, you know, rubbing his hand, like he's got a little bruising around his knuckles, and he's like, you might think that I need to step down, that I'm too close to this, but I'm acting in the best interest of the country, you know, I'm not doing this for my own personal gain, I'm doing this for the country. And she's like, whatever reason, sir, I agree with you beating on him, and you told me to take the shot, and I would have, and for what he did to your son, and for Rick as a colleague of Argus, and a co-worker, and, you know, like, he deserves to die, and he's, you know, so Bordeaux and Flag get on the same page, and she says she has no problem taking out Peacemaker for what he did to Rick Flag, and then she starts like flirting with Flag because she thinks Flag's loyalty to his son and Argus and, you know, like beating on Peacemaker she finds attractive. I was like, ooh, okay, Flag and Sacha Bordeaux, I'm interested, I'm into it, you know me, I'm a sucker for a love story, so if, you know, I'm here for the Peacemaker Harcourt love story, but if we want to add another love story to this and add Flag and Sasha Bordeaux, I'm in. Like, come on. Peacemaker then tells ADEBYO on the car ride back to the cabin what happened, and he says Harcourt fucked him over to get her job back with Argus. She saw her opportunity and took it, and ADEBYO's like, no, she would never do that. You have to talk to her. And Chris is like, we talked enough. I'm over it. I'm over all of it. I'm fucking done. And ADEBYO's like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, nothing. And Vigilante, like, now that the car is silent and awkward, he's like, well, now that things are getting pretty dour, does anyone want to break the mood by quizzing me manta ray facts? Nobody takes him up on it, so they cut away. So we cut back to the woods to Red St. Wild, like Elmer frickin' Fudd hunting wabbits in the woods. And he's shooting off his musket, and it looks like he takes out an eagle. And we're like, oh shit, did he just shoot fucking EAGLY? But look at this shot of him holding the gun up in the air as he's about to shoot it. Like, look at how far away it is from him. You know what I mean? Like, that's at least 4 feet of gun from where his hand is. You know what I mean? Like, a gun doesn't need to be further than like this. You know, like, you know, right to there. It's a big gun, you know, massive, like it's the biggest musket ever. Elmer Fudd would be very happy to hunt wabbits with this thing, but this guy's out here hunting eagles. And it looks like he kills an eagle, so we walk over to it like, oh no, did he just kill EAGLY? But right at the same time, Peacemaker gets dropped off at the cabin, and he tells ADEBYO and Vigilante that he needs some alone time, and so they leave. And he like goes to whistle for EAGLY to return, and you know, he's all beat up, so he can't necessarily whistle as good as he could. But we cut back over to the dead eagle on the ground, and Red walks up to it like, I got you, son of a bitch, I got you. And then a second eagle hits him from the back. And then a third eagle hits him. And then he's surrounded by eagles. And we see that EAGLY is the prime eagle after all, and the king of the eagles. And I was like, oh my god, this is real? All that shit he was saying about the prime eagle, I thought he was full of shit. But no, EAGLY is, it confirmed, the most powerful member of the 11th Street Kids from James Gunn's mouth. I was like, what? Okay, I'm here for it. You know, like an EAGLY looks pretty badass as in front of his like fire logo of the primal eagle. I was like, that is crazy looking. But I have a whole clip of what happens to Red St. Wild here and how this goes down.
The prime eagle. EAGLY? I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
Wow, what an absolute perfect way for this character to get what happens to him. Like, it's so crazy. Like, he's surrounded by the eagles, and EAGLY unearthly squawks as Red St. Wild pleads for his life, saying, I'm sorry, EAGLY, I'm sorry. And then all the eagles start to rip him apart. He's like trying to stab it with like maybe he's got like an eagle claw, kind of like Alan Grant in Jurassic Park has a little velociraptor claw. Pulls out like an eagle claw, tries to fight back, but the eagles like just take over him and just rip him apart. I was dying laughing at this. I was like, what a satisfactory way for this terrible character that kills eagles to go by getting absolutely ripped apart by eagles. I was like, perfect way for him to die. And if he doesn't, well, no, he should be dead. Comment below if you think we'll ever see Red St. Wild again. I think this was the perfect way to send out this character, and he's dead. He got ripped apart and eaten alive by those eagles, as far as I'm concerned. Which then just leaves Michael Rooker open for James Gunn to make him yet another character in the DC universe. We then cut back to Peacemaker in the cabin writing a note to ADEBYO because he's thinking about taking EAGLY and getting the hell out of this universe. But Judo Master has eyes on the cabin, and he calls back, you know, Argus, and he's talking to Fleury. And Fleury says, yeah, we got drones on it too, Duncan Munchkin. And Judo Master's just like, oh, you're not going to call me that. And Fleury's like, oh please, I don't need your crap about the proper word for Munchkin is midget bullshit. And Judo Master's like, Munchkin means child, not little person, asshole. And Fleury's like, how am I supposed to know Munchkin science, man? You know? Oh, what a funny conversation. Some really funny dialogue in this episode. But Judo Master says to Fleury, "You call me Duncan Munchkin again, and I will rip your dick off. And not metaphorically, actually rip your penis off your body in a move I learned from a blind monk in the Himalayas." And Fleury just kind of straightens up like, "Whoa, okay." And he just goes, "It looks like Flag knew what he was doing. We will get the troops and be right over there. Stellar work, Judo Master." And he's like, "Go fuck yourself." And Fleury's just like, "Yeah." Oh man, bro, like Fleury, Tim Meadows in this season is definitely my MVP. He's one of the new characters that I'm like, I absolutely love him. Like, as much as I love Sacha Bordeaux, Sol Rodriguez, Tim Meadows is the MVP of the season, for sure. Fleury is such a funny character, and like, if he dies this season, I'll be pissed. But Fleury then goes to Flag's office, and he sees that Sasha and Flag are being all cute and flirty in his office. But Flag sees him walk up and goes, "What is it?" And Fleury's like, "We have the location on Peacemaker." And they both like, "Okay, let's go." You know, so they spring into action. But we cut back over to Eagly walking into the cabin, and he just drops Red St. Wild's finger. And that's all that's left of him is his finger that Eagly brought into the house. And he doesn't eat that finger. He just drops the finger. And Peacemaker just looks at it and goes, "I'm just gonna pretend you found that." And Chris leaves the note that he wrote for ADEBYO, and he sends ADEBYO a text saying, "See ya, bestie, be good," because once he gets into that other universe, there's no service over there, so he wanted to send her a text so that she'll come find the note type shit. And then we see Peacemaker sets up the portal device for the QUC, and he says, "You ready for the next adventure, pal?" to Eagly. And then he goes through the door with the device set up to close behind him so that he can't get back. And he's officially going to that universe with no, comeback plan. But Judo Master follows him through the door. So, probably things maybe could have just worked out if it was just Peacemaker going to this other universe to fill in for his old self. But having Judo Master follow him from that old world, that's gotta cause some problems, right? And we know that Judo Master went through because when Adrian and ADEBYO arrive back at the cabin, she sees Cheeto fingerprints in the note that Judo Master left saying, "I followed him through the portal." And then she finds the note that was in the device and, goes, "Oh wait, what is that?" And she starts to read the note. She's like, "No, fuck, come on, Adrian, text the others, we gotta go." And then November Rain by Guns N' Roses plays. Oh, and as the song plays, we cut back to Chris getting cleaned up in the other universe, and he walks into the other Peacemaker's bedroom looking at the posters, embracing it as now his own room for the first time. And his brother walks in and says, "Hey, suit up, we got a kaiju downtown. What's with the bird?" And he goes, "He's a rescue eagle, and he will now be my sidekick named Eagly." And he's like, "Whatever, dude, just hurry up, let's go." So clearly, the Peacemaker from the other universe did not have a sidekick named Eagly, but he does now. We then see ADEBYO reading Peacemaker's note to the rest of the group, and it starts in her voice as it says, "I'm trusting you to tell the rest of the group goodbye for me," and then it switches into Peacemaker's voice for the rest of the note, saying, "I've tried again and again to make up for my mistakes, but I'm not sure redemption is truly possible, at least not here. So I'm going to live in the other universe and be a brother to my brother, a son to my dad, and I'm going to tell Emilia, yes, we'll work on this." And then he goes on saying, "I'll cherish life and overcome my trauma and be a good man there that I wasn't able to be here." And as he says that, we see shots of Peacemaker with a jetpack like he always wanted, flying with his brother and father to the scene of that kaiju crime going on. And so he's joining the top trio, and he's in this other universe being a hero, and we see Eagly soar up next to them as well. So he's got everything he needs. He's got his brother that he killed, his father that he killed, he's got this new universe, they're heroes, he's able to fight crime together with them, and he was able to bring Eagly. So, what more could he want other than Harcourt? But this universe also has a Harcourt that likes him. So, this universe is so much better than his universe in his mind, but he hasn't looked closely enough at this universe, I don't think. We're going to find out real soon in these last 3 episodes that something is incredibly wrong with this universe, I promise. But we go back to his note and he says, "Don't be bummed. I love you all. Even Harcourt after all that fucked up cunty bullshit she did. But I don't belong here in this universe." And he says, if you turn this weird dimensional rift device into Argus, maybe you will all get back on their good graces and you could get your jobs back and everyone will be happy. Love, Chris and Eagly. But we see ADEBYO sit down next to Vigilante in the other room, absolutely bawling his eyes out and so sad that his best friend is now gone because, you know, Peacemaker was his best friend. And it's just, you know, a nice moment that he hugs ADEBYO, who was his like nemesis, because that's who he sees as like the enemy. You're the one stealing my best friend from me, you know, that type of shit. So, you know, just sad that like he hugs ADEBYO, being, you know, Peacemaker's two closest friends maybe, and, you know, just mourning that Peacemaker's gone. Like, poor Vigilante's gonna miss his buddy. And then ADEBYO comes back into the other room and asks Harcourt, "Did you really knock out Chris and give him over to Argus?" And Harcourt goes, "No," and she tells her what really happened from her side of things and says she had to, you know, couldn't do that or a PMSing cyborg would have shot him. And ADEBYO just smiles and Harcourt's like, "What?" And Ads is like, "You're just who I thought you were, girl, and that's a good thing." And Harcourt is really a good person and is friends with all of them and really loves this team and maybe even loves Chris, but I think she just isn't letting herself love him. You know what I mean? Like, has the feelings in there, but just won't let them be feelings. You know, is like blocking them, pushing them down, suppressing emotions into her feet. But Harcourt asks ADEBYO if she saw Peacemaker ever use this thing, and she goes, "Yeah, I think you just line up these things and blah blah blah," you know, and it tries to explain how the device works to her. And Harcourt's like, "Okay, let's go. We can't use it here." And John's like, "Use it?" And Harcourt's like, "Yeah, we're going to get Chris back." And Vigilante comes running out from the other room, stops crying, and he's like, "Maybe I can meet another me from the other universe." And he's all excited, and they all head out, and John's like, "Fuck! Fuck me!" You know, he's all fucked up, he's pissed. And then we hear "Take Me for a Ride" by Bad City plays as we cut back to the other universe, and we see on the news the top trio takes down murderous kaiju. And it looks a lot similar to the kaiju we saw Superman take down in Superman. But Superman took down that kaiju during the day, and they took down the kaiju at night, it looks like. So maybe they're in a different city than Metropolis, maybe Gotham, maybe not, but, you know, at night nonetheless. And Peacemaker, then covered in kaiju guts, walks into Argus and walks right up to Harcourt, and they look like they're about to run up and hug and passionately kiss each other, and it cuts right before they do to the credits. And I was like, "Oh, you bastards." I was like, "You're gonna leave us on that cliffhanger?" Like, it almost feels like a cliffhanger that would be at the end of a season. And it's like, oh, will they fall in love? Come back next season to find out. You know, it's like, oh, but no. Luckily, we just have 3 more weeks and we'll be hopefully able to figure out all the answers to our questions over these next 3 episodes. But wow, what an episode. And there's still a post-credit scene in a trailer for next week to talk about. But I have that little clip of them at the very end, so I just wanted to show, you know, the kaiju on the news and what that clip looks like. Oh, I can't believe he got right up to that point and then he cuts away from them about a kiss. I was like, "You bastard, I want to see them kiss." Ah, yeah. But the post-credit scene, because every episode of Peacemaker has a post-credit scene, in this one is Vigilante rifling off manta ray facts in the rest of that car scene that we saw them cut away from. Wasn't so silent for Peacemaker and ADEBYO, because Vigilante, rifling off manta ray facts, says manta ray is the pancake of the sea. A manta ray never forgets. Did you know that when a manta ray is born, they look like the shape of a burrito? And then ADEBYO just kind of like heavily sighs. And then Adrian's like, "Can we get some Taco Bell?" Now that he just said the word burrito, he's hungry. And Peacemaker's like, "How many manta rays for you to shut the fuck up?" And Vigilante starts to really think about it like it's a serious question. But Chris is like, 4? 5? A murder of manta rays? Are they even called a murder? And Vigilante just kind of like sits back all sad, like, oh, he's getting angry. And he's just like, no, they're called a school. They're fish. They're school. A school of manta ray. And ADEBYO is like, somebody shoot me in the ass. And Adrian like leans forward like, what? What was that? Did you? And she kind of face palms him into the back seat. So that's what the rest of the car ride was like for ADEBYO in Peacemaker, you know, and after that awkward pause, Vigilante filled the silence. But then the trailer for next week looks really interesting, so let's take a peek at that.
Everybody move back a little.
We are insane. Is this what it's supposed to do? Fuck, Adrian! Why can't you flush your drugs down the toilet like a normal person?
How the heck are we supposed to find him?
There's no way Chris should be here. Like, maybe just trust in the wisdom of the universe just a little bit.
We need to find Peacemaker. I don't think you understand how important this is to the United States, to the world.
I'm gonna need you to come with me, miss. Why are you here?
We're all here, Chris, to get you to come back.
Ooh, so a very interesting trailer for next week. So it looks like they're going to use the QUC device to fire it up to get back to the other universe. And just like before, it blows back, and it like blew back Chris and ADEBYO. But this time they did it in Adrian's basement. He has a bunch of drugs down there. So when it blows back, a bunch of cocaine goes all over the team. And friggin' ECONOMOS is like, God damn it, Adrian, why wouldn't you just flush your drugs down the toilet like a normal person? Like, why would you save it all down in your basement? Like, but I can't wait to see Vigilante's house. It looks like it's going to be hilarious. His mother, the drugs, I can already imagine it being very funny. But Vigilante, we also are going to get to see back in his Vigilante costume next episode. But then they make it over to the other universe, and it looks like our Peacemaker sleeps with the other HARCOURT. And I'm very curious to know what our HARCOURT is going to think about this when he like gave up on her and just is going to sleep with another her from the other universe. Like, she might not be too happy about that. And it looks like HARCOURT goes to Argus in the other universe, but because the drugs blew up all over them, when she walks in the front door, the dog starts barking like crazy, and because it probably smells cocaine on her. But Peacemaker sees her walk in, and it looks like he must pull her into a separate room, and he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, we are all here to get you to come back. And he's like shocked, like, you did this for me? Like, you want me back? Like, what? You know, so yeah, a very interesting trailer for next week. In 6, 7, and 8, 3 more weeks. Very exciting. But I was right, and Peacemaker did decide that it was no longer going to work out in this universe, and he's going to commit himself to the other universe and to the other HARCOURT and being a hero and being a good man. But something is still not right about that other universe. But James Gunn has said episodes 6 and 8 are his favorite work he's ever done. And he's done a lot of great stuff, so why is 6 and 8 his favorite stuff he's ever done? Is it because there's, you know, big cameos or something and big surprises in them? And Jennifer Holland the other day in an interview was saying that there are some really big consequences in these final 3 episodes. So what does she mean by that? And why is James so happy with these last 3 episodes? Is it just because they're crazy and they do so much? Or is it there's a big crossover in a big way? And maybe Superman and the Justice Gang are there in the last 3 episodes. Or maybe even Supergirl. Maybe Lanterns. Who knows? Maybe some weirder, crazier shit like Blue Beetle comes into it. You know, who knows? You know, James Gunn is the boss now. He can do whatever he wants. But what do you think's coming up next in these next 3 episodes? I've really been enjoying breaking down this series. I hope you guys enjoy these videos and hearing me and my thoughts about the Peacemaker episodes. But I'd love to chat more Peacemaker Season 2 with you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on these final 3 episodes and where do you think we're going and what's going to happen, because I have no idea, and I think it's just going to be really, really good, and I'm thinking some big stuff and big surprises are coming. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can send me those to my other social medias, links for those down in the description below, or comment below your thoughts. Best ways to support the channel is liking this video, commenting down below, so comment your thoughts. And if you can't wait for more Peacemaker videos, make sure you hit that bell and you'll get the notifications when those come out. And please subscribe, that's one of the best ways to support the channel. And once again, my name's Big Cam. Thank you guys so much for making it this far in the video, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace!